Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of Married with Wrestling. I'm Susan, and this is Chris, and we are here to talk about just a few things that we wanted to touch on this week.
Yeah, wrestling subjects, not necessarily recaps, but wrestling subjects that we found interesting, that we talked about through the week and wanted to expand the discussion online. So our three topics today: I want to talk about tribalism, I want to talk about double titles, and I want to talk about heel turns. So let's start this off with the heel turn discussion, because the John Cena heel turn is still the biggest story in wrestling right now. And we haven't had any follow-up to it.
No, it's torture.
This is the issue with doing it with a part-timer, is it's hard to strike while the iron's hot. Cody's doing his best. Cody's doing the best he can to keep the memory alive and keep the anger up. The crowd's still feeding into it. I'm sure Cena's going to get a great heel reception on Monday when he shows up. I'm very interested to see what he does with it. But the reason I wanted to talk about heel turns is, over the week, I've seen a lot of people's takes on where John Cena's heel turn ranks as far as the best heel turns. And I know WWE put out a list, and a lot of people were like, WWE showing a lot of recency bias, because I guess 6 out of the 10 have happened in the last 5 to 10 years. And the one that I see it get equated to the most is the Hogan turn, when the NWO formed in 96 at Bash at the Beach. Now, I know you weren't watching wrestling then, so you don't know the impact that heel turn had. I had Bash at the Beach 96. AJ, our editor, will remember this. We had Bash at the Beach 96 on VHS. And we watched it a lot. For a while, I knew what every match on that card was and what every result was. I don't now. But when Hogan turned heel at the end and dropped the leg on Randy Savage, it was to the point, and you can't do this anymore, so this is probably why Cena's heel turn didn't have this effect. But have you ever seen video of the Hogan heel turn with NWO?
I don't know.
I think it would surprise you, because the ring is littered with garbage, and they're literally pelting garbage at Hogan while he's cutting his promo.
I've seen that.
That's a pretty impactful heel turn. I would say that would go down as the biggest heel turn of all time.
It just sucks that it has to go to him.
Yeah, it does. It does. But that heel turn completely revitalized the business. It made WWE get on the ball. It's the reason that WCW was leading in the ratings for a long time. It was a pretty impactful heel turn. I think that is the most apt comparison to John Cena. But I think when you're looking at a heel turn, the things you have to look at is, you have to break it down into pieces. The setup. Nobody really thought anything of the Cena heel setup until Triple H mentioned at the press conference. He declared himself for the Elimination Chamber. That's not something that people just do.
Did I not say that whenever he said that? I was like, is he a heel? Did I not say that?
You kind of questioned it from the beginning.
I did.
Yeah, because he was trying to push it as, we can do this, we got this, and you were just like, John, you kind of just cut the line. And even CM Punk was like, he cut the line, but he can do that. and now CM Punk's like, oh, screw him. CM Punk cut a pretty fiery promo about it, the Raw after. He was able to capitalize on it pretty quickly. And last night, it's funny, they've done well with Cody, because the first promo, and maybe it was because Cody's eardrum was busted and he had a black eye, but it was very, I don't want to say downplayed, but it was very, calm. He was just it was like he was more disappointed than angry. Mm-hmm. And then the promo he cut after that, he was more angry. And last night, he's like, I don't want to talk to a freaking soul unless it's John Cena. Miz TV, this talent, it was so funny. Because you went to take the dog out as Miz TV was starting. And you were like, Cody's still got to come out. Miz is going to do his shtick. You thought when you come in, it was just going to be getting started.
Yeah.
And when you came in, Damian Priest was coming out for his match.
Yes.
With Shinsuke.
I know. I was like, is it already over?
Yeah. Because Cody literally came out and he was like, I don't want to, Miz was like, I don't have time for a Cody Rhodes sing-along, because the crowd was just belting Cody's song out. And he's like, I don't have time for a Cody sing-along. So Cody's on the turnbuckle and just turns around, looks at Miz, goes over, kicks him in the stomach, does this little drop and punch, hits him with a crossroads, picks up the microphone and says, I don't want to talk to Miz, I don't want to talk to anybody unless it's John Cena, and then he left.
Yeah.
So, we set up well for Monday, because WWE's play... I love how WWE does this, like the graphic is literally John Cena and Cody Rhodes in the same building. Like only wrestling could tell that as, oh man, they're in the same building. What's going to happen? But I think the second part of John Cena's heel turn is going to tell the story. When he comes back and he gives his motives, what he does with it, that's what's going to cement the heel turn and whether or not it's good. With the Hogan heel turn, and the NWO ran a lot longer than it needed to. It was like a 2-year story of just random people being added in and coming out. It fell apart after a year. But initially, he turned heel and became the leader of this group that was just tearing everything up, destroying everything. Sting went away for a year. Story-wise, it made Sting go away. That's what brought Crow Sting back. Was this heel turn. So it had reverberations throughout the entire company for a good while.
Yeah.
I don't know that Cena's is going to ultimately have that impact. It does. It is creating ripple effects because CM Punk's pissed off and Cody Rhodes is pissed off. We don't know how The Rock's playing into this. So there's still a lot to be determined with what's going on. So I think what happens after the heel turn is just as important to seal it. And I think the best example of a moment done well and then the execution after wasn't great was the night that, at the time, he was Dean Ambrose, turned on Rollins the same night Roman announced his leukemia was back. That was a turn that was executed to perfection the night that it happened. After that, he started wearing the gas mask. He started calling the crowd stinky.
Shots in their butt.
He
hated his time there at that point, though.
Yeah, he did. He was very angry. And it's a shame because the heel turn itself was executed beautifully.
Yeah.
Beautifully executed. Yeah. And what came after wasn't great. Another example of that is Becky Lynch's heel turn on Charlotte, because what happened was everybody crapped on it because we're like, no, Charlotte's the entitled one. We're on Becky's side.
Yeah.
And I think they tried to do that again with Tiffany Stratton, but this time they learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Because Tiffany is definitely getting the face reactions that she needs. She's not even fully turned face. She's still kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
But we prefer her over entitled Charlotte. They're letting Charlotte lean into the entitledness.
Yeah.
And they had a great brawl on SmackDown last night.
They did. God, this is awesome change.
Yeah, Tiffany jumped off the top of the video board. It interrupted Miz TV. You got joy out of a men's segment being interrupted for once.
Yeah.
That could brought you joy.
I got really excited.
Yeah. The only other heel turn I could think of recently in WWE that had the reverberations that it did is the Seth Rollins turn on the Shield. And I would say that because literally that happened 10 years ago, and that's why Roman's still pissed at him to this day.
Shield was
such a
popular faction, though.
It was. And a lot of people said that it ended too soon. I would make the argument that it's better when you leave wanting more.
I was going to say, I'd rather it end too soon than it go on for too long. It's like Schitt's Creek. I want more Schitt's Creek, but I don't want it to turn into shit.
Yeah. Pun intended or no pun intended?
No, I didn't think about it, actually.
But yeah, the Rollins heel turn is still having reverberations. To this day. Roman is angry because of what happened there. And even CM Punk plays a part because the Shield was originally designed to be CM Punk's task force. So, there's reason there. I've seen a lot of people kind of poo-poo the idea of the triple threat between Rollins, Roman, and Punk. I'm excited for it. I think Raw set some great seeds whenever Roman got pissed that Paul Heyman was consoling CM Punk. Yeah. So CM Punk had to be executed for that. I thought that was great. I think that story's going to be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people are sleeping on how fun that's going to be. Especially because Rollins is just unhinged when it comes to both. So we're going to see a side of Seth Rollins we haven't got to see lately because he's got the sing-along and he's been the good guy for a while. So we're going to get to see, heel Rollins, and I'm here for it.
I like Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
Out of those three, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
Out of those three. Out of Roman, him, and CM Punk, I would prefer Rollins.
Yeah.
And then Roman.
Mm-hmm. Still way down?
I can say that I can understand why people would like him, but I don't.
Okay. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. I think his promos are whiny. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you think you're the best in the world or if you want to put people to sleep. Like, I don't care. Because it's always the same thing. Like, I'm the best. Mm-hmm. I was wronged.
Yeah.
You all love me. Mm-hmm. And then I get annoyed when we hear the CM Punk chants for no reason. Like, that annoys me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he's still on the bottom of my favorites.
Okay, all right.
Not even a favorite, but he's still on the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think another instance of a heel turn that was executed great when it first happened, and it involves the same guy, and it's Moxley's heel turn right now in AEW. The execution after has been fine. I've had some issues with how much the Blackpool or the Death Riders gets involved in his matches. That didn't happen at Revolution. Revolution was a fun show, by the way. Tony Storm and Mariah May, go check it out, because that was freaking brutal.
That's my favorite hardcore women's match of all time, I think. Mm-hmm. It was brutal, and I know you shouldn't compare the two, but WWE could never. Their women could never. You have Alexa Bliss who doesn't even want to get hit in the face. So, like, they could never put on a match like that.
I think there's women in WWE that could if they were given the freedom to do it. I think Rhea Ripley absolutely could.
But they would never let them do that.
No, they wouldn't.
Their hardcore
We know
matches,
Candice LeRae can.
Their hardcore matches, Chelsea Greenwood.
Yeah.
Their hardcore matches in WWE are literally women just going through a table. Mm-hmm. And that's hardcore.
Yeah, like, we were, when we were watching SmackDown last week and they were talking about Mia Yim being the queen of the deathmatch, we're like, this is fine, but AEW women excel.
But I can
matches.
see Michin doing awesome with the hardcore matches, though.
Yeah, I think she would go. I think she'd go all out.
It's just WWE. Please do not tote your hardcore matches as hardcore. No, at all.
Do you remember when they did the Terry Funk Memorial match?
It was embarrassing.
It was a table spot, and that was it.
And I was like,
that was under the Triple H regime too.
Guys, come on, guys, like. I understand that you guys, I don't know if they're still PG era or not. I don't think so. I don't know. But, like, you cannot tote a hardcore match when all other wrestling promotions are actually doing hardcore matches. Like, you gotta change that name up, because it's not hardcore. We can see by every other wrestling promotion, it's not hardcore.
They don't call their matches hardcore matches.
What do
they call them street fights or, what's the other one they've been using? They used Extreme Rules for a while, but they've thrown that term out.
Well, that's good, because they don't do Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Street fights?
A lot of times now it's just street fights. But those involve being able to go anywhere.
Well, okay, then I take it back. I guess they're not calling it hardcore matches.
But still, AEW's calling things street fights, and they're bleeding everywhere.
Well, I feel like you literally just discredited my whole...
No, I'm not discrediting anything.
So now I take back everything I just said, I guess.
No.
They don't call them hardcore matches.
But that's what they're designed to be. That's what's implied.
Yeah, well.
But no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to heel turns. I think time will still tell on Moxley. Like I said, I think it's going fine. It's not as interesting as what John Cena's done, but we don't know the aftermath of what Cena's done. Cena may come out and fall flat on his face. We don't know how that heel turn's going to go. There's still time to determine. But John needs to get back so we can figure out what's going on. But he'll be back Monday. So.
I think we've touched on heel turns a lot. I don't know.
I love heel turns because you can't do them in other mediums. Like in movies, you have twist villains, but you don't get to build that up for weeks at a time. You're building it up for maybe an hour.
Yeah, but that keeps my...
An hour.
Movies don't keep my attention span.
Mm-hmm.
WWE does a lot better keeping my attention span than a movie. Because it's a soap opera with fighting.
Well, you could do the same thing with a TV series, but you've watched a lot of TV shows. And I actually wanted to ask you, you're going to be so excited, I wanted to ask you a Housewives question. Okay. And I'm going to ask you a Housewives question again later.
Okay.
Do you ever see heel turns on your Housewives shows?
All the time. They're always backstabbing each other.
But is there ever any shock to it?
Yes.
Okay.
And they fight each other. They've gotten into fist fights. Yes. Mm-hmm. That happens on Real Housewives. And Summer House. And
there's probably a correlation then as to why you like those.
Because wrestling is literally a soap opera for men.
It's kind of...
You guys can say it's not. There is drama. The only thing that's different than a soap opera is that there's more fighting. It's more physical. Mm-hmm. Come on. Watch a soap opera and then just literally focus on the stories in wrestling. It's a soap opera for men.
Do you know what I thought of as a soap opera? And it's not because they're women. The Bianca Naomi promo.
It was dramatic. It was extra. It was dramatic. Like, whenever they replayed it, I was like, this is too extra. There's a fine line for me between being, like, great and extra. That was extra. Tony D'Angelo going to jail and then getting out because of a match. That was too extra for me. So, like, I draw a fine line between the extraness and it actually being okay with me.
Okay, so for you, sometimes wrestling does jump the shark.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's so funny that you don't remember much. Mm-hmm. Like, your memory's not that great. But I love that you remember the whole story about Tony D being in jail.
Because I think it was the dumbest storyline I've ever heard in my life with wrestling. It's like, come on, he's getting out of prison because you're winning a match. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, man. It's just so funny that you remember it so vividly.
Because I thought it was stupid.
All right, well, let's move on to our next subject then. Okay, so the next thing that I want to touch on is, at NXT, they had the title match between Julia and Stephanie Vaquer.
Which was stupid. Why do we always have to combine? It's always there's been 2 titles combined that I can think of for men.
Uh-huh.
Both were involved with the bloodline stuff.
Uh-huh.
Women, they have had their tag team titles taken away. They are now combining these titles. They've had something else. Like, if you can't keep a title around for the women, don't introduce it.
I am not a fan of the having 2 title belts in the same promotion stick.
Yeah.
And this started all the way back. The earliest example I can think of is Hogan and Warrior at WrestleMania 6. Warrior's Intercontinental title was on the line. Hogan's World title was on the line. Ultimate Warrior won and got both titles. Yeah. That's the earliest example that I can think of. But there's been a lot. You know, for a while, Seth Rollins was U.S. champ and WWE champ. Becky Lynch was Raw and SmackDown Women's champ after WrestleMania 35. I understand that the 2 belt thing looks cool, but I think it works better in the way that, like, Mercedes Moné's doing it now,
where she's promotion.
Yes. Yeah. I think when you have the roster the size of AEW and WWE, both, because AEW did this with PAC with the International Championship and the Trios title, but I think it's the only time. No, they did it with MJF and the World title and the Ring of Honor tag title. But when you have rosters as large as this, there's no reason for this. Especially a title as young as the NXT North American Women's Championship. It's been around for, 3 months? Yeah. Has it even been that long?
So, what's the purpose? Because my thing is, okay, you're just going to combine those 2 belts, probably.
Yeah. I don't understand.
Why introduce a new belt, then, if you can't sustain all of them? That's just being stupid. You're not thinking long-term.
Uh-huh.
You're disrespecting the talent, I think.
I get it from the stance of Stephanie Vaquer won the match. So it makes the North American champion look stronger than the world champion. So I get that the idea might have been to make that title look stronger. But then you're devaluing the world title.
You didn't have to put the titles up, though.
No, you didn't. That was kind of I kind of had an issue with NXT Roadblock as a whole. When it came to the title defenses, like every single title defense I had an issue with. Moose and Obafemi, their matches for the NXT title, and the Hardys and Fraxium was for the TNA tag titles. I know damn well the NXT title's not going to TNA, and the TNA tag titles aren't coming to NXT. So it takes away the surprise of who could win. Like, Fraxium could have used that win over the Hardys, but they didn't get it because the belts didn't want to change hands.
I don't mean this in any disrespect. I like the Hardys. In what world, though, are the Hardys, who they've had they move better now, but they don't move anywhere compared to Fraxium.
Yeah.
So, like, in what world are the Hardys beating Fraxium?
Like, I feel like Fraxium, like, if you boil it down and you take the fantastical wrestling element out of it, I feel like Fraxium could literally just run circles around the Hardys until the Hardys get tired.
I know.
Like,
so, like, what?
Yeah,
in what world should the Hardys have won that match? Like, I get that they're, like, legends. They're so beloved. But it's time for you to not win.
Yeah.
It's time for you to be there just to help the younger talent.
Yeah.
You don't need to win.
Now, when AEW does Forbidden Door, you can run into the same problem, but we've had New Japan titles appear on AEW TV. We've had AEW titles defended in New Japan. Like, I feel like there is an outside chance it could happen. It usually doesn't, but there is the outside chance it could happen. I would believe it's going to happen there more than I would believe it's going to happen in WWE.
Yeah.
WWE is not going to send one of their top titles to another promotion to be defended. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
By the same token, TNA is not going to cough up their tag titles over to NXT. Yeah. That's not going to happen either. Yeah. But going back to the double belt concept, I've never been a fan.
Yeah.
Like, that's something I've never enjoyed that. Because I think there's too many people to have more than one title be with somebody. Unless, like you said, with Mercedes, or a few years ago when Kenny Omega did it with his belt collector gimmick. If you're going to promotion, that's a different story.
Yeah.
That's an absolutely different story. If you wanted, for example, Stephanie Vaquer to win, or Julia to win the TNA Knockouts title, it's not going to happen. But I would enjoy that more than Julia carrying the North American Championship, too. And NXT's done this, too. They did it with Keith Lee. And what happens is you book yourself into a corner. You're like, okay, now what do I got to do to get this title off of them, but keep this title with them? It doesn't make sense. They had to do that with Becky Lynch. I think Becky Lynch lost one of hers to a cash-in, or like it was her second match of the night or something. It had to be a really convoluted way to get it off of her. And she only had both belts for like 2 months.
Yeah.
So all they were doing with that one, I understand with that one, they were just trying to make the women's WrestleMania main event the biggest that they could. I understand that's what they were doing there. And Asuka ended up paying for that because Charlotte had to be in the main event. So sucks for Asuka. I don't know that Asuka's completely ever recovered from that. Speaking of which, I thought Asuka would be back at the Rumble, but I don't know when she's coming back. Maybe Raw after Mania.
I don't know.
But yeah, not a fan of the double belt concept. Never have been. Probably never will be. The belt collector thing is fine as well. I mean, it's fine compared to the double belt in a promotion, but I still think it kind of sucks to have your belt go with somebody else that doesn't work for your company regularly.
Yeah.
So what Mercedes is doing is better, but those promotions are lacking a champion unless you're going to do what Kenny Omega did and you're going to go to all these promotions and defend
Doesn't
them.
she go to the other promotions, though?
I think she does, but not nearly as often. Like, she's a human being. She's only got so much she can do. Yeah. Honestly, I think it works the best for somebody like Matt Cardona. Because Matt Cardona doesn't have roots anywhere. Yeah. He just bounces where he's needed and where probably where his best payday is going to come from.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at that, Matt Cardona is the best example of a belt collector type thing.
Yeah.
Because
at one point in time, he had like so many titles.
Yeah, he had the world title for the biggest wrestling promotion in West Virginia.
He had like the Jericho Cruise Oceanic title with it at one point.
Yeah, he was just going around. But he didn't have roots anywhere. He wasn't expected somewhere every week. He wasn't expected to be at SmackDown or Dynamite. He just goes where he wants to.
Yeah.
For Ring of Honor, everybody's like, oh, is Cardona signed with Ring of Honor? No, he came in, cut a couple promos, wrestled Jericho, and now he's out again.
Yeah.
So, I truly think Matt Cardona is probably the only person right now that could get away with it and be able to defend everything and not run himself dry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the last thing I want to touch on is something that we always touch on a little bit, and that's tribalism. I cannot wrap my head around why wrestling is so tribal. Like, wrestling is such a niche interest. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but I feel like the more of it that's out there, the better, because you're going to find more that's going to appeal to people.
Yeah, but I will say that it's really hard for me to do anything AEW anymore.
But I'm talking about tribalism to the point where you don't want AEW to shut down.
No, I'm just bored with them right now. They don't keep me entertained. I dread watching them sometimes.
But you don't want them to go away. I'm talking about the people that I see post like,
no,
oh man.
Because the reason, they're one of the reasons why WWE's doing so well right now is because they've got to make sure AEW continues staying squashed by them.
Yeah.
So if that goes away, that's going to lose one of their competitors, and they're with TNA now, so that they're not going to have to compete with them. So
yeah, there's a partnership there at this point.
Yeah, so I don't want AEW to go away. I just want them to get better because you're boring me.
And New Japan, I think, is just too. It's too. There's a lot. How do I say this nicely?
That's what you say. A lot of people love New Japan, and they are the.
I feel like New Japan can be the snobbiest fans sometimes.
Yes, they can. For sure.
I mean, I don't have time to watch New Japan, but the New Japan stuff that I've come across, it's fine. I like it. If I had to pick a promotion right now that I'm the most into, it's probably WWE. Because their storytelling has gotten so much better since Vince took his ass and went away.
And that's what I like. I like storytelling. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it for me. That's what gets me involved.
We talked about this a few weeks ago on the podcast, and I used Will Ospreay as an example. Will Ospreay will continuously put on 5-star matches. By the way, that match at Revolution against Kyle Fletcher was fantastic. Please don't have him wrestle Kyle Fletcher for a while. I'm over it. That being said, that match was great. But he'll put on 5-star match after 5-star match after 5-star match, but I don't always remember them. WWE is going to tell me a story with it. I have seen, the comparison I saw the other day is probably in ring, AEW's better, but WWE's better at telling us the stories that get us in the ring.
Yes.
Like, for example, that Will Ospreay Kyle Fletcher match was great. It was a great match. It was probably a better worked match than Cody Roman 2. But I'll remember Cody Roman 2 because of the journey. Yeah. I don't remember what happened in ring. I remember all the surprise appearances. I remember the stories to get us there. I remember Cody being bloodied outside of his bus. I remember the journey to that more than I remember what happened in the ring in the AEW match.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do remember one move, I think it was on AEW, where somebody caught somebody on their shoulders or something.
It was Brian Cage. He caught
Now,
Hologram.
that's something I remembered, and I don't remember spots. And I remembered that one.
That blew you away when he did that.
It did, yeah.
And that's it. Like, AEW's strength is in the ring. That's why their pay-per-views are so good, because they don't have to tell any stories there. They could tell the stories in the ring, but they don't do it to the level that WWE does.
Yeah.
I think Bully Ray mentioned that a lot of people cited the downfall of AEW was when CM Punk got fired and went to WWE, and Bully Ray was like, I take it back a step further. Cody Rhodes was their major storyteller when the company started. Mm-hmm. Like, Cody was where all the drama was.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at the guy. It's clear. Like, he brings the drama with him. Yeah. Not in a backstage sense, in an in-ring sense. But I think we need to stop this tribalism of, oh man, I can't wait for AEW to close. Who's that helping?
people aren't going to stop that. People are only happy when others are suffering. Mm-hmm. Because listen, I'm a social worker, so I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Okay.
They're unhappy with something in their lives. Mm-hmm. So they're only happy if somebody else is suffering. Mm-hmm. I mean, the person makes sense in the scenario I have in my head. So, like, mm-hmm. they're miserable, so they want somebody mm-hmm. else to suffer just like them.
Yeah. Like, I know
you guys are miserable. You miserable fuckers.
So I know, because I know there's tribalism in sports. Like, for example, I was talking to your dad yesterday, and he's a Steelers fan. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he made a joke. He was like, what would really help our season is if Lamar Jackson broke his leg. And then after like 5 seconds, he's like, I don't want him to get hurt. I was just saying that. Like, at the end of the day, like, your dad's a Steelers fan, but he doesn't want the Browns or the Ravens or the Bengals to shut down. He doesn't want those teams to go away. Yeah. He doesn't want those players to be unemployed. Yeah. You know, I mean, we have tribalism in politics, but I'm not touching that today. And the other housewives question I want to ask you, are people tribal about the housewives? Like, are there people that, like, are there people that are like, I'll only watch New Jersey, the rest of them could go away for all I care? Do you see that in the housewives world?
It's not really shows. It's more mm-hmm. the people on the shows. Mm-hmm. So, like, there are a lot of... The Real Housewives fans are very similar to wrestling fans. Mm-hmm. They always hate the people. They're always complaining. But once they're gone, they miss them. They're very much like... The wrestling fans are never happy. So, theirs are mainly like a person. Like... Mm-hmm. People pick sides because they fought every single season. Mm-hmm. So there was tribalism in that regard, but not really for shows. It's just more for the characters on the shows.
So it'd be like if you watched New Jersey and you were like, you know what, I hope Atlanta shuts down. I hope all those people go out of the job.
People do that, yeah.
That you do see that there?
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand that. Like, I understand the people thing. Like, you and I both believe, you know, that Hulk Hogan can go somewhere and do something.
There is a difference, though. With the Real Housewives, typically they're already rich. Mm-hmm. So if they go somewhere else, they're not going to be without money. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they don't want them to get paid. It's just they don't want them on the show.
And I think that AEW has a lot of wrestlers that are like that. Kenny Omega's going to find a job. Konosuke Takeshi's going to find a job. Orange Cassidy will find a job. But... there are people that are going to be jobless if that would happen. And I just don't understand, you know, hating a company so much because they do the same thing as the company you like, that you would want all their people to go out of business.
I just don't think that people think of it that way. People don't think of it like that. Like, mm-hmm. They don't understand that there's real life consequences to what happens.
I think the funniest thing to me about the whole thing, too, is there's a simple solution. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you hate it so much, why can you not stop commenting on it?
Literally, like, I mean, I comment on CM Punk a lot, but I feel, actually not that much anymore. Mm-mm. I just kind of, but a good example is, I don't like him. So anytime he's on the screen, I don't really say anything anymore. I think I just don't pay attention. Mm-hmm. I might be like, oh, God, or something, but then I just don't pay attention.
You don't even do that.
Yeah.
You've even told me, you were like, I don't like him, but his stories are interesting.
Yeah, I like the people he does them with.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think tribalism does anything for anybody. Even the wrestlers, like, they talk about, like, WWE guys have said, I have friends that work at AEW. Yeah. And AEW guys have been like, I have friends that work at WWE. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah.
They're fine with it, so who cares? They're probably just all happy that they all get to make a living doing what they love. I don't know. And I don't want to take that away from anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away anybody's living. So let's stop the talk of closing AEW down. Let's just let them do their thing. They'll cycle through people. They'll do their thing. WWE will do their thing. And if you like it, you'll watch it. And if you don't like it, don't watch it. Mm-hmm. But I think that's going to cover everything for today. Like I said, John Cena comes back Monday, so we'll be able to see how that John Cena heel turn plays out. We're under 40 days away from WrestleMania. I think WrestleMania is going to be really fun this year. Mm-hmm. AEW Revolution had a lot of fun stuff going on with it. We didn't really recap it that much, but there was some good stuff. I say definitely the two matches to check out are Toni Storm, Mariah May, and Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Kenny Omega and Takeshita's great too, but that's always happens. I'm hoping for some fresh matchups in AEW now, because Revolution kind of felt like a repeat of stuff I've seen. So let's get some fresher matchups in there, especially with Double or Nothing right around the corner. But we will be back next week to find 3 more topics to discuss. Find wrestling that you like and enjoy it. If you like the content, make sure to give us a like, comment, share the videos, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys next week.
Later.